third and final race of the weekend here in round 6 of the Euroformula Open Championship from the Red Bull Ring. 4.326 kilometers in length, 20 laps of racing to come, or 30 minutes, whichever is first. And it is the second of our top 6 reverse grid races, this one taken from the qualifying order. So despite Timothy Kahacek's 3-place grid penalty in race 1, he will still start from 6th position, having been the fastest in qualifying. It is Everett Stack, the young American, who will be starting on reverse grid pole for this one, having started this morning's race from the front row. He was a staunch defensive driver in that one. If he manages to get the whole shot into the first corner, he may well be able to keep the whole field at bay. There is Yevon David, our race 2 winner, and the man who closed in to the lead in the championship. It's just 15 points to separate himself, Michael Shin, and Timothy Kahacek at the head of the order going into this final race of the weekend. Chris Stevens up here in the commentary box, George Morgan alongside me. Looking forward to this one.
Yeah, it's going to be a good way to end our run at Red Bull Ring. Obviously, it's an important one as far as Yevon David's concerned, because he's looking to try and reduce the gap to the top of the championship, where Timothy Kahacek has obviously been occupying for quite some time. And Yevon David ending the winless run here this afternoon as well. Of course, earlier on today, we witnessed him take victory once more this season, for the first time, though, since Hockenheim Ring Race 3. So he's got the, should we say, the demon off his back. He can now look onwards and try and attempt to do the double here and now. But obviously, if you're Timothy Kahacek, you're going to look to come in and try and at least get something out of this weekend. Of course, had the 3-place grid penalty for race 1 that was served after doing some prior testing at this track going back a couple of months ago, and therefore receiving that penalty starting further back. It did make his job a little bit harder, though. I must say, 3 places, not certainly out of the realms of, you know, crazy to think that he could achieve something like that. But this man has also been on the money where it's come to race results this weekend. Of course, race 1 winner, Michael Shin, who has been absolutely spectacular, also very much part of the title fight at the moment, inside the top 3, and has now found himself fighting it out with the likes of Yevon David for that said title, Timothy Kahacek as well. Jose Garfias could be an outsider threat as well, and starts on the front row alongside Stack. He could come away with a race win this afternoon.
Well, I'm sure Michael Shin has shuffled his deck of cards again and put the random one back in his pocket, as he has started doing this weekend. Apparently, is a bit of a Brad Pitt F1 movie tribute.
This race could be his ace in the hole. Who knows?
It could well be. Well, of course, it got him the win in race 1, and from 6th to 2nd in race 2 this morning. Will it bring him some luck from 5th on the grid for this one? Nielsen Racing making their way over to the grid. Kaji Baptista didn't finish race 2 this morning after being pitched round by Luca Vichorinu. Or Vichoranu, I should say, sorry, as that was contact up at turn 3. And so, of course, the son of Ricardo Baptista, the sports car racer and multiple GT champion in Brazil, will be hoping to round off his debut weekend in the Euroformula Open Championship with a decent result, as will Francesco Soldavini, as will Vichoranu, as will Alessandro Familaro, the 4 new drivers we've welcomed to the championship for this weekend.
Yeah, they're all standing tall on the grid right now, just conversing with the teams, getting some final instructions laid down, also the final checks and prep before we head on to the formation lap. Obviously, front row, Everett Stack, who's been defending like a lion right through the course of the weekend thus far, been keeping the likes of Yevon David in behind, but also the likes of Michael Shin and Timothy Kahacek. There is your pole sitter for this race, standing tall on the front row, the man from the States, and looking to continue his rampant rise, and very likely we're going to see him back next season as well. There is Jose Garfias lining up alongside him, the Mexican, who has been very strong this weekend and looking to go steps closer, also looking at potential Indy seats in the future as well, as maybe some prototype running. We'll wait and see, but obviously looking to lay down the foundations in yet another race here at Red Bull Ring.
And Diego Della Torre for the 3rd time this weekend, starting from 3rd on the grid. He got an absolutely lightning start yesterday in race 1. And so can he repeat that and get the launch into the first corner? It's a 217-meter run from pole position to the first corner. Yevon David there equipped with a fresh set of boots for this race on all 4 corners. Not sure if the same can be said for all of his Motorpark teammates. We know that the Nielsen guys should be doing so, and Timothy Kaharczyk, if not on a completely new set, will be on a very lightly scrubbed set. I say the front left does look pretty new there, though. So see Matteo Tirananzi, his race engineer, just peering inside the cockpit. The second BVM car. Starting on the fourth row of the grid, Alessandro Famularo, the 22-year-old Venezuelan, having competed in Euro Cup 3 this year. Ed Pearson, once again, leading the Nielsen Racing contingent. Been a difficult weekend for Ed, a weekend of missed opportunities, potentially, and unfulfilled potential. He was disappointed with himself after qualifying, after race 1 as well. Let's see if he can round things off on a high.
Yeah, that's what he'd be hoping for. Obviously, it's been a lot of frustration laid down after race 1 yesterday. But a chance to break the hoodoo here today. Here comes now Carly Bautista. See, looking to bounce back after 2 races where he's experienced some issues. Obviously, he had the crash in the first race, and then, of course, later on had a misdemeanor of his own in race 2. Obviously looking to end the weekend on a high if possible, as now the Nielsen driver starts from the very back of the grid. Of course, Francesco Soldavini starting just in front of him in 10th place, the Argentine. As the fans look on, looking forward to the final race coming up through the course of the weekend.
Let's remind you what's happened so far this weekend. Michael Shin starting from pole position in race 1, but Diego Della Torre getting the best start, although he didn't have the best turn 4. He ran wide on the exit of the corner. That allowed Michael Shin to go through, and Jose Garfias into second place as well. Great battling between Della Torre and Kaharczyk for the podium places. Della Torre eventually yielding that spot. Michael Shin untroubled at the front of the field, and he would take his 3rd victory of the season in race 1, moving closer towards Kaharczyk in the championship. Yevon David starting on reverse grid pole this morning in race 2, getting a very nice launch indeed, and leading into the first corner ahead of Everett Stack. It was Timothy Kaharczyk, the aggressor, though, making up 2 places to go around the outside. Big lock-up, though, going into turn 4, trying to get around Stack for second place. That allowed Michael Shin to go through for a podium place. A move on the inside at turn 1 sent Everett Stack wide, as Shin managed to go through and take second. But it was Yevon David for the 5th time this season, and for the first time in 3 months, taking victory. All that means is that it's 15 points between Kaharczyk, Shin, and David at the head of the championship. Michael Shin just 4 points back from Kaharczyk. The championship lead could swing in this race. Jose Garfias remains an outside contender as we move towards the final 2 meetings of the season. Final race of the weekend about to get underway. Here's how they line up. Everett Stack from reverse grid pole, and then it's Jose Garfias alongside him with Diego Della Torre, and race 2 winner, Yevon David, in 4th. 3rd row of the grid is race 1 winner Michael Shin, and the championship leader, Timothy Kaharczyk. Alessandro Famularo, also for BVM Racing, goes from 7th, with Ed Pearson, the lead Nielsen car, in 8th. Behind them comes Luca Visceranu, Francesco Soldavini, and Riccardo Baptista, are 3 of our rookie drivers for this weekend, with Paolo Brajnik bringing up the rear in the gold class. Engine notes rising, formation lap about to get underway. What are we expecting?
Well, it could go anywhere, really, Chris. I mean, I've got to say, the front row, Everett Stack starting on pole position. Jose Garfias could be, though, the one to challenge him in the 99 against the 9 here at the start of this race. I got a chance to talk to Enzo Fittipaldi as well earlier on, just after race 2, and Alessandro Famularo taking a lot of learnings from his first 2 races in the Euroformula Open Championship. Definitely something to build on going forward. It'll be interesting to see what he has taken from those first 2 outings and bringing it home into a crescendo for this final race. Obviously, the start is imperative. He starts behind Timothy Kaharczyk, who is obviously exceedingly quick and obviously leading the championship, albeit by a 4-point margin. Who is going to come out on top between this bunch? It's a who's who, really. Of course, I'm sure many of you around the globe, wherever you're tuning in from, have your opinions. The drivers you are supporting: Yevon David with his vast collection of fans here from Sri Lanka, Timothy Kaharczyk with a grandiose amount of Polish fans as well from his home nation, also in his corner as well, but also a strong Mexican contingent for the likes of Jose Garfias, Diego Della Torre as well. We truly have quite the collective of nationalities competing here at this European F3 level. So really looking forward to seeing how they get on. It's going to be a raw fight, plenty of opportunities for overtaking. The avenues through turn 3 are always an opportunity. Turn 4 also prevalent. If they can get the run as well through Roche and Wirth curve, we've certainly seen a few side-by-sides at that portion of track. And of course, the running towards turn 1 has offered a few wildcard moves, as we have seen from the likes of Michael Shin already this weekend.
Yeah, Michael Shin with a great drive to go from 6th to 2nd this morning. Starts one higher in this race. It's funny you talk about the different nationalities. The Euroformula Open Championship, but only with 3 drivers actually from the region, which is Poland, Romania, and Great Britain. We have representatives from the USA, from Argentina, Venezuela, Sri
Not
Lanka.
from the Americas continent.
Well, Sri Lanka and South Korea,
Yep.
Brazil, Mexico as well. So, yeah, a hugely global grid of young hopefuls trying to make their way up the single-seater racing ladder towards the FIA Formula 3 Championship primarily. We already know that 2 of our drivers are heading that way. Yevon David will be competing with AIX next season, and Fernando Barrichello already made his FIA Formula 3 debut this weekend in Monza. That's why he's not in his familiar green and white motorpark car. The arrival of Luca Visceranu in his stead, but should be Fernando back for the final 2 meetings of the season in Barcelona and Monza. So we watch Everett Stack lighting up the rear Pirelli tyres. Drivers really struggling for tyre temperature in a very cold race this morning. Track temperature a little bit more amenable to that, 22 degrees out there. And it will be the 18-year-old Virginian who starts from pole position, a 2-time podium finisher this year. Tensions in the motorpark garage. The tensions were sort of boiling over a little bit in race 2 as some of the teammates got a little too close together. There we see Enzo Fittipaldi in the BVM garage, along with many others. Green flag is waved at the rear of the field. All 5 lights on. We're racing for the final time this weekend. Didn't look like a great launch for Everett Stack from pole position, 3 wide further back, but it is Jose Garfias trying to show his nose on the inside into the first corner, but Stack has just been able to repel the advances of the Mexican behind him. Yevon David running out very, very wide on the exit of the first corner, and some smoke potentially coming out the back of his car. Yes, Yevon David once again with potential dramas and a rear left puncture on the Sri Lankan's car, and so he is going to drop to the rear of the field. He'll have to come in and get that changed, and just as he was closing up to the championship leaders, it all goes wrong for him once again. But it is Everett Stack who leads the field, just with Michael Shin having gone from 5th to 3rd and now trying to make it 2nd place. He nearly makes contact with Jose Garfias. Another super late move on the brakes. That's where he was really, really strong this morning. Doesn't quite manage to get that move done, and so it is Garfias who just about manages to hang on to 2nd place, but Michael Shin is really trying to do something about that.
Yeah, very aggressive nature does Michael Shin at times, but still it works for him from time to time as well. We saw the move at turn 1 in race 2 earlier on this afternoon, as we always also see Timo Kaharczyk swabbing all over the back of Diego Della Torre. But heartbreak here for Yevon David. He's going to have to come into the pits to have that tyre looked at, that's for sure. That rear left that certainly seems to have had the rubber shredded or removed from the actual wheelbase itself. We'll wait and see how, of course, he gets on making his way around the track, but of course I'd imagine this race is out of reach. Let's have a look at the start again.
Oh, is he going to move across Della Torre?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He hit the end plate.
I'm sorry, but Yevon's only got himself to blame for that.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, if you move across, there's a car already present. That explains why he ran so far wide as well. Already the tyre was separating from the wheel rim itself.
That is just a misjudgment. And, well, I'm sure he'll kick himself for that one. Side by side for 4th place with Timo Kaharczyk trying to get around Diego Della Torre. And before they even get to the braking zone, he's able to chop the nose of the motorpark car. And so that is Kaharczyk, the championship leader, up into 4th place. Wide on the exit of turn 3 goes Luca Visceranu in the Fernando Barrichello car. Yevon David finally making it back into pit lane to get that left rear changed. Of course, it's not a regular occurrence to have pit stops at this level of competition. Just checking the suspension, making sure everything's good there. The thumbs up, and spinning the wheels before he even got dropped. That would have made me jump as the rear jackman, but Yevon David now on his way and rejoining the racetrack. He'll be needing a safety car in order to catch up to the pack.
Yeah, definitely will. And it's going to be a recovery mission and a half, but I get the feeling that that could be race done. I think as far as Yevon David's concerned here, in terms of getting points anyway, certainly the higher end points. But
crucially, not a lap down. So if there is a safety car, he can join the pack.
Yeah, well, it's not as if that he'd have to overtake the pack again and then have another safety car, ideally, to help him out to close back up once more. But we'll have to obviously see how that unfolds. Never any guarantees that you're going to get a safety car. Ultimately, really, in the Euroformula, we've had quite a clean weekend as far as concerning safety cars so far. But heading uphill out of turn 1 and on the rise up through towards turn 3. Of course, the little kink of the course at turn 2 as well, barely a corner. Incidentally, many people obviously alluding to turn 3 as the real turn 2 as they charge up towards Remus. Stack still with the lead at the moment, 4/10 between himself and Garfius. Michael Shin still very much hovering all over the tail, equal gaps in the midst of our top 3 so far as we take a look at the slow-mos as they skip over the curbs coming through turn 1. Timothy Archik obviously locking in at the moment, fresh after the move on Diego Della Torre. Purple in the first sector as well on this particular lap, and the last lap was the fastest one as well. So more in the offing here for Kaharczyk, who is embracing, from what we saw, what looked to be fresher tyres being donned by the BVM car. So this might come good for him come the end of the weekend.
Fastest lap of the race there in 4th position on 25.6, closing up to Michael Shin. Managed to bring down that gap by 0.2 of a second on that previous lap. And it is a four-way fight for the lead. And I said at the top of the show, because Everett Stack was so good at defending second place this morning, and him being able to hang on to the lead means that we've got a bit of a train up at the front of the field. No disrespect to Everett's ultimate pace there, of course, but he was really getting the elbows out this morning. And so it means it's 3 motor park cars. You've got the Everett Stack car, which is the white wing-tipped car. Oh, actually, they've all got the white wingtips on them now, haven't they? So, excuse me, the white wing-mirrored car at the head of the field. You can spot Garfius with the blue helmet there, the second car in the queue. Michael Shin's a little bit easier to spot. He's got the green trim on his car, and then, of course, the white and orange BVM racing car of Timothy Kaharczyk at the rear of this queue. 4 vying for the lead here on lap 4. And it is Stack with just about a couple of car lengths advantage over Garfius.
Yeah, obviously now Michael Shin can't really go for the weird and wonderful moves this time because, of course, now Kaharczyk is on the tail. He can't risk exposing a potential avenue. And he knows that there's pace in this BVM car. If there's even a glimpse of a possible overtake here on offer, you know that Kaharczyk is going to go for it because at the end of the day, he's got 3 places to move his way up to the top. If he's got enough pace in these Pirelli tyres, then he's going to make the most of it. He's currently fastest in the speed trap. He is on a fastest lap as well at the moment. Obviously, no purples this time around, but the pace is still exceedingly quick, and he is the fastest in the first sector out of the top 4, and indeed in the middle sector is the fastest. Well, actually, no, not the fastest, incidentally. Everett Stack was in that middle sector, but it's 2 personal bests from Jose Garfius and Michael Shin in the latter sector as they now begin the next lap. 16 to go as they now head uphill through towards turn 3. There's now Garfius now comes under pressure here from Michael Shin, who might have no qualms in opening up the door for P2 this time around. Immediately shutting the door, trying to narrow off the avenue is Garfius. As they now come out of Remus corner once again, can Shin develop something in the wheel tracks to contain the car 23 under investigation for jumping the start? And that's Michael Shin himself. So he could yet be penalised. Let's see how this move unfolds because he's all over the tail, immediately switching down to the inside, trying to almost send a false move there to Garfius to try and get him to cover off elsewhere, leaving an avenue down the inside. Garfius wasn't going to fall for that one.
So potential dramas for 2 of our championship protagonists then. Timothy Kaharczyk must be loving hearing that. So that...
Well, the problem he does have, though, is he still needs to overtake Michael Shin to attack P2 and P1.
Well, depends on the penalty he gets, doesn't it, really? If it's a drive-through, then it'll be very handily pulled out of his way, won't he? Let's see it again. So look for the... Oh, he creeped forward, but he stopped.
Yeah.
It depends whether he was
moving
when the lights went out. So he definitely moved forward. Was he moving when the lights went out? Judging by the start he ended up getting, I would suggest not, but Race Control have got a much thicker book on what to apply to that.
And more monitors as well.
Yeah, what we do know is that Kahacek is probably the closest of any of these cars at the moment, and he's looking on the inside and gets his nose cut across there by Michael Shin, our race 1 winner. And so Kahacek settling back into 4th position, but that's the first real look we've seen from the Polish driver in an attempt to get himself provisionally onto the podium places. Everett Stack at the head of this queue, a 2-time podium finisher, yet to take his first win in the Euroformula Open Championship. Jose Garfias, of course, a 3-time winner going into this weekend in 2025. And in fact, 3 career wins as well, because he was only on the podium in the final 3 rounds that he did with us last year, celebrating his 1-year anniversary in the Euroformula Open Championship this weekend, having moved over from Euro Cup at the second half of last year, sticking with the Motorpark team.
Oh,
and it's a
there we go.
5-second time penalty to Michael Shin for a jump start. So to your point, George, that still means that Kahacek is going to have to get the move done on Shin if he wants to challenge Garfias and Stack in the latter stages of this race.
Well, certainly given that he wasn't able to capitalise in race 1 or race 2, I would say Kahacek really needs to lay everything out now to benefit from the use of testing that they had to even get the penalty in the first place, costing them the eventual pole position for race 1. So it's Kahacek's chance now to get some own back here, because it was Shin who went and took victory in race 1 this time. We'll look to try and feather his own nest and grow the points gap ahead of Yevon David and Michael Shin. It's definitely a possibility. Of course, Giuseppe Mazzotti has had to face reality this weekend. We've seen 2 Motorpark drivers winning here at Red Bull Ring so far. He would love nothing more than to add a BVM to the top spot this time.
Although, with my cold, calculated engineering cap on, and not my passionate racing driver cap on, Yevon David's already at the rear of the field. You know you're going to outscore Michael Shin if you just hang on to the back of him anyway. Yes, we say that Garfias is an outside shot for the title, but losing a couple of points there is not going to make that much difference. Stack is not in the championship fight. Would you just sit back and take the podium on this one and just preserve a good championship lead rather than risking it by trying to pass him?
Well, I'm not sure about that. I mean, there's plenty of width around this circuit, and certainly he's proven that he's got plenty of pace behind him, does Kahacek. If you look at the previous lap times, of course, a 1:25.1. We'll take a look at this moment as well. Now, that's Michael Shin having a major swapper coming through Jochen corner and then down through towards the final bend at Red Bull Mobile Curve. So after the penalty, more things start to unravel for the Korean. Might have been done in anger, perhaps, after receiving word about the penalty. Timek Kahacek, purple in the first sector again, showing that he still carries the pace. And very keen to get the move done on track, it seems. He's hovering right in the slipstream of Michael Shin, just not quite close enough to elevate himself alongside to make the move happen. But still there, and showing Michael Shin, giving him a headache, really, at the moment.
Well, I'll tell you what, whatever playing card Michael Shin drew before this race,
Joker.
Well, I think he's going to discard it from the pack for the rest of this season, clearly.
Someone gave him the Joker, I think, unfortunately. It's left him wanting at the moment. I think the one thing that might save his race is the fact that Ed Pearson is 2.5 seconds back. If he can levy himself higher and more so higher in terms of the delta between himself and Pearson, then he might be able to rescue a 5th place finish. But that might be at best at this point. But we'll see what happens. Well, he might be able to rescue a 4th if he can grow the gap to Ed Pearson. We'll have to wait and see.
So it is start of lap 9. Everett Stack continues to lead, but by less than 0.4 of a second. He's led this race from the offset. Garfias did manage to draw alongside at the start, but wasn't able to mount the challenge into turn 1. He has about half a second over Michael Shin, who in turn only has about 0.3 over Timek Kahacek. But this is the first real look from Garfias on the inside at turn number 3. That was so close to contact, and the better exit for Stack on the outside line there, serving him very, very well indeed. But Garfias soaking up that slipstream closer than he has been since the start of the race, making very, very deep around the outside, not able to get that one done. Tries to get the up and under, but nothing doing there. One thing I'm noticing is that no one really wants to overtake around the outside of that corner because they know they're just going to get pushed into the gravel.
And it places such a high level of load on the tyres as well. You end up burning more and more rubber, and as you all know, folks, this soft Pirelli tyre, it doesn't take a huge amount for you to all of a sudden lose the tread of the compound. You have to really manage it, and I would say this is exactly what Kaharchik's relatively doing, because he is not essentially going for extreme dives, certainly not doing what Garfias is doing, which is just trying to unlock the door every which way to get past Everett Stack. He's just waiting in the wings for the opportunity to strike. It could have very easily led to that point. If they had made contact through turn 3, Kaharchik could have at worst obtained a P2 with Shin moving on through, but of course, as we all know, Shin will have the penalty. Kaharchik would have inherited the win and just remain behind Michael Shin and held P2 on circuit. But let's wait and see as they now climb the hill once again. The run up through towards Remus at turn 3. The gap now unfolding between Stack and Garfias. Once again, he defends well, but now the run on offer for Kaharchik, who is right in the rear. Now this time of Michael Shin, and has the favourable inside line. Coming through turn 3, they're so close again. Shin denying him, and it looked like Kaharchik was favourite in that instance. And in fact, I think Shin got the better run on the outset of the third corner on that occasion.
It's the second lap in a row I've winced down at turn 3, getting so close by tightening the entry into turn 3 so much. We've seen so much contact down there in years gone by, or even this morning, wasn't it, between Baptista and Visharanu. So great battles once again, and Pearson is closing down on these guys. He was 0.6 per second quicker, and actually the fastest driver on track last time around. So 1.8 seconds to Pearson in 5th position behind Kaharchik. That is definitely going to be one to watch. If these guys continue to squabble and take too much time out of one another, as we hit the half race distance, 10 laps in the book, 10 to go.
And through to turn 1 they go here at Niki Lauda Curve. And then the incline comes into play. Now, Pearson, I think, is starting to close here. It's now 1.9 seconds between himself and Kaharchik, so that's bad news for Michael Shin. On top of that, Kaharchik might also be bad news for Shin once again as he looks to get closer and closer to the back of the motor park car once more. The 324 chassis coming under fire. Now, Timmy Kaharchik committing to the inside once more now as they very nearly provide a carbon copy of what happened last time. And it is a carbon copy because Shin has come out on top, has lost a little bit of leverage here on Garfias. So Garfias given free rein now. 0.6 has expanded out here at this stage as they head down through towards turn 4, and Shin once again doing well to defend against Kaharchik, blocking every major question that the pole has led.
That was Everett Stack in the gravel.
Yeah, Stack in the gravel coming out of Slosh Gold and has forfeited the lead, and it's in the hands of Mexican's very own Jose Garfias.
Jose Garfias could be on for a 4th win here in the Euroformula Open Championship now with that mistake from Everett Stack, an unprovoked error from our erstwhile race leader.
And it throws him in the championship fight more so as well, because if we consider where he was prior to this race, not too far away, broke 200 points. He could yet go a little bit closer this time around. So what was a 3-car affair now becomes even more so a 4-car affair, potentially. Still featuring ahead of Shin. Of course, he'll gain more points on Shin as Shin declines behind Ed Pearson. And Diego de la Torre, 3.4 back, might be a little bit too far away from Michael Shin to benefit from his penalty, as now they come over the curve through towards turn 1 this time around, and they sprint up through towards the 3rd corner apex at Remus. Once again, Kaharchik on the tail, looking to find the avenue for the overtake. He has tried and tried and tried. He has been unsuccessful. This time, though, 3 times the charm, perhaps. As up the inside, he's got half a car, more of a car alongside, the full car, in fact, a full car's length, as he now comes out into P3. Timur Kaharchik now with the leverage in his favour. Shin having to conform to the rear of him this time. The Korean looking to the outside, now looking to go late on the brakes, coming in towards Slosh Gold. Will he have to lock up? No, not this time, but forfeits P3 now. Kaharchik has tried and tried and tried, and he's finally succeeded, Chris Stevens.
Gave him a good shove off the racetrack as well, didn't he, on the exit of 3. I'm sure Michael wouldn't have appreciated that one too much, but as we know, Shin with that 5-second time penalty for jumping the start, it was a move that Kaharchik had to make if he wanted to have a chance at challenging Stack and Garfias for the upper echelons of the podium. So Shin demoted down to 4th. If the checkered flag were to come out now, Michael Shin would only lose 1 place, I believe, to Ed Pearson. And of course, that's, Pearson, if he does get onto the back of these guys, he's going to have to clear Shin as well in order to challenge for the podium, despite the penalty. Sounds obvious when you say it like that, but...
it's easy for us to say in the commentary box.
Yeah, exactly. So Stack's not really done here, is he? He's right on the back, less than half a second. I dare say he's taken a little bit out of him in just the first corner alone. Garfiz is really defending. Oh, big lock-up from Garfiz. He's never going to get it into the corner properly, and so runs out very, very wide. And another mistake from our race leader, this time Garfiz, that should allow Everett Stack back through. So Garfiz going for his 4th win of the season. Everett Stack going for his 1st, and it's Stack back down the inside into 4. The lead changes hands once again, and Timothy Garcek has arrived on the scene as well with 7.5 laps remaining.
And yet a warning has been sent out for track limits to Everett Stack as well at the same time. So obviously, as a result of perhaps running wide at Nicky Lauda curve, and in fact, car number 11 now receiving a 5-second time penalty as well as Luca Vicharanu down in 8th place. Obviously not part of this lead scuffle. Of course, with the lockups that both Stack and Garfiz have had, it's offering an olive branch, a leaf of opportunity for Kaharchik once again, who's now in 3rd and on the tail of these front 2. So now ultimately it is once again a Motor Park and BVM affair up at the front as they look to fight over the higher end podium places. The win still very much up for grabs. It is still Stack back in front. As he was at the start of the race, he led for a good portion. Garfiz may have had his number on 1 occasion, but Garfiz showed his frailties as well. And after that little swapper, once again, Kaharchik could become the thorn in his side very shortly as they cruise uphill through towards turn 3. Here comes Stack, the American, holding his own for the back Garfiz. A fairly equal gap between them all, 3/10. To be precise, as they come up through over the crest and then downhill through the Styrian Mountains. Let's take a look at this again. This is the move from Timothy Kaharchik up the inside of Michael Shin, and just having enough alongside there, barely any room left on the apex.
No, left him no room on the exit.
Yeah, and obviously Michael Shin had to take a lot of the curbing and the escape road. Kaharchik inheriting P3 as a result, and a lockup for Jose Garfiz, who ran off wide and through went Stack.
Now that is classic, forcing your opponent into a mistake there, putting him under pressure, consolidating the move down into turn 4 there as well. Great stuff. And so 2 lead changes in this race, both coming from unforced errors, you'd say. Shin dropping off the back now, doesn't quite have the ultimate pace it would see of these top 3.
And Ed Pearson closing the gap again, 1.1 seconds now as well. 25.3 was the last lap, the fastest of any driver inside this top 5 at the moment. So really going strong. He's just about to join the rest of this field, in fact closing up to the back of Michael Shin. Of course, we've still got 6 laps left, so do not count Pearson out, and I'm sure has a bit of a point to prove here for Nielsen Racing, who have not had a car featuring inside this top 6 scuffle as of yet, but now Pearson has his chance. Should he be able to get a little bit closer as we now watch them fly uphill through towards turn 3 once more. This time Kaharchik a lot closer now to Jose Garfiz, and he knows it. Looks to the outside now as they sprint uphill through towards turn 3. Takes a wider line. This will give Kaharchik a nicer leverage and pace on the run down through towards turn 4 at Slosh Golden. He's going to make the most of it. He's going to move alongside the Mexican, who might have nothing to answer this with as they cruise down together wheel to wheel. Who's going to go last on the brakes? Surely it's going to be Garfiz. He's got the Tiger line, the better line that has proven certainly effective time on time this weekend, and it has proven successful once more for Garfiz. But back comes Kaharchik now as they come through Rauschenwerth curve, covered off brilliantly by the Mexican. He remains in second.
Great tussling once again, and remember how much Kaharchik struggled to get around Garfiz in their battle for second place in race 1 yesterday. So battle resumed between them. Garfiz and Kaharchik second and third in race 1. But that time it was Michael Shin leading the way. This time it's Everett Stack. And of course, Kaharchik knows that he's ahead of all of his championship rivals now, so he's got to be somewhat wary of that as he looks to try and mount a further challenge into the Euroformula Open Championship for this year. Diego Della Torre also picking up a 5-second time penalty for track limits. So that is the, now 7th place car, as he's just been passed by Alessandro Famularo going into, on that previous lap, I would say.
Diego Della Torre, 5-second time penalty for track limits. Obviously, as you were saying, Chris, and just recorded on our screen as well for the viewers to see at home as well. But yeah, like you so rightly said, Luca Viscerano obviously also suffering the same fate earlier on. So, but it looks like now Karchik is going to try once more on Garfius.
Yeah, going down into turn 4, and it's a late dart to the outside as Garfius defends. 4.5 to go in this one, and Everett Stack's looking ever more comfortable out of the front of the field. Could well be on course for his first ever victory in the Euroformula Open Championship, and potentially his first win in any championship. Looking back through his American F4 and Formula Regional Americas campaign, I know he's had a bit of a mixed bag in terms of the F4 series he was running in. Didn't quite manage to complete a full campaign last year across the Italian and Euro 4 series. So yeah, it could be a first car racing win for Everett Stack. We'll hopefully get that confirmed post-race. It's 4 laps to go. Everett Stack leads by 0.9 of a second to Jose Garfias, who's busy trying to keep the championship leader at bay. Michael Shin doesn't seem quite so able to show his nose properly in this fight. Remember, he does have a 5-second time penalty for jumping the start. He will lose out to Ed Pearson as it stands, but there's an 8-second gap behind Pearson back to Famularo, who himself has a 5-second time penalty anyway. No, he doesn't. Sorry, it's Viscerano and Della Torre with the 5 seconds, isn't it? Sorry, I should have written that down better. But yeah, they will both have penalties as well. Soldovini and Baptista inside the top 10. Of course, Evan David still circulating out there in 11th place. The safety car he's been wishing for all race long hasn't actually come, so he will score no points in this race unless he manages to nick the fastest lap, which he hasn't been able to do so far. That's actually been set by Timmy Karchik, 124.7. And it's a 24.9 for Evan David as it stands. And of course, he may be running out there in clean air, but of course that also means no slipstream. We 3 laps to go when we go across the stripe. Stacks continues to lead, and Karchik still trying to find a way around Garfias.
Yep, certainly is. 4/10 still between them. Garfias, though, starting to be dropped, though, by Stack. We've seen it progressively gapping over the last, now, couple of laps, and it will continue to do so. Of course, last lap for Stack was a 124.86, well, in fact, a 125.298. So on this occasion, Garfias was actually quicker than Stack, albeit only by mere hundredths, but it's enough to, in fact, pop him actually 0.2 closer. It's 0.8 now between Garfias and Stack. Karchik, though, with the fastest lap of the race, still 0.4 behind Garfias at the moment, and trying to close on a potential P2. But still 3 laps to go. Stack's obviously got to keep his composure ripe, as now here comes Garfias and Karchik again. Now a mere 10th between them, and Karchik switching to the outside instead, seeing a slightly better alternative line in his mind. But of course, Garfias will have the benefit of the inside line that has proven vital in the efforts of defence, both utilised by Everett Stack and of course Garfias himself on frequent occasions, and once again managing to marshal off Karchik, who will surely be growing even more frustrated, time on time, having to try and poke the bear as such here against Jose Garfias, who once again defends coming through Roche Curve, and they'll come through Verth. It is still Garfias in second place, but now as a result, it's allowed Stack to progress 1.3 up the road now, as recorded on your screens, folks. Michael Shin also still remains 7/10 behind Karchik. Ed Pearson now dropping slightly backwards, only for a brief moment, 1.5 now away. Famularo 7.6, so Shin at worst will be in P5.
Karchik had a massive swapper in the middle of 4 as well, trying to get that overtake done. Had to gather the car up. I'm amazed he got the exit he managed to do. 2 laps to go. Everett Stack's lead now over 1 second for the first time in this race, I believe. On course for his first win. The question is, what order are the drivers on the podium going to be finishing in? Garfias leads Karchik as they rise back up the hill. And Karchik again looks to the inside. Garfias covers that one off. So the BVM car to the outside once again. And this looks like a moment for one of the Nielsen cars. And it is Francisco Soldovini dipping the right-hand Pirellis into the gravel on the exit of turn number 6. But manages to carry on his way. And very nearly side-by-side again for second place, with again Karchik being forced to the outside line going into the downhill braking zone. And boy, there was nearly a touch there as Garfias came across the front of Karachek's car, and Michael Shin closing in on this battle while they've been squabbling so much. So he's not fully out of the podium fight just yet as we are starting to approach the final lap.
You can see how much that Karachek wanted that inside line for Roche Curve, heading through the first half of the double left-handers. But now coming down through Rin Corner, Shin now back with them. Pearson managing to bring the gap down by a tenth as well, 1.4, it was 1.5 before. Now as Stack now crosses the stripe to begin the final lap of this race. Garfius 1.7 now back this time around. Will still have to defend against Karachek, but could it be the case that Karachek will have to defend against Shin this time, who, despite having the penalty, he will lose the spot regardless. But even that being said, knows that there's greater things at stake here for his very own team as they head uphill through towards turn 3 again. Shin just, faking a move to the inside there just to throw perhaps Timek Karachek off in the mirrors as they come through out of turn 3 on the run down through towards turn 4. Either way you look at it, Garfius, I think, has done enough. It looks like his second place is going to be protected. Stack in himself, a lead protected here in what could be a remarkable first one of the season.
Yeah, 6/10 pulled on that previous lap, so great stuff while Garfius and Karachek were busy squabbling. Looks like Garfius has got this one covered with Karachek dropping off the back of the Mexican's car now. And even if Michael Shin does make a move on Karachek, he'll end up losing it with that 5-second time penalty anyway. Well, it was 2 podium finishes for the rookie class driver coming up from the F4 level. Started this season racing in the Middle East in Formula Regional machinery, though. And it will be, for the first time in the Euroformula Open Championship, Everett Stack from Virginia in the United States. He takes victory in race 3 at the Red Bull Ring. Jose Garfias will finish second with Timek Karachek joining them on the podium. He once again stretches his championship lead with Michael Shin on corrected times, finishing in 5th position behind Ed Pearson. What a great day for Everett Stack, though. The youngster, the 18-year-old, I'm sure that Mark Jonker, his engineer, will be celebrating with him on the radio as well. Great job by this fresh-faced youngster who just lets a bit of air in with the visor up. He is a race winner in the Euroformula Open Championship for the first time, and doing so in quite spectacular fashion.
It didn't come without combat. Of course, had to fight off Jose Garfias. They both came together frequently at turn 3. And, of course, Garfias might have been wondering what could have been had he held on to that lead for the brief time that he had it. But great effort from Everett Stack to throw him off and give him certainly a slice of his own raw talent and ability. Take us through the result, Chris.
For the first time, it is Everett Stack on the top step of the podium in the Euroformula Open Championship, beating Jose Garfias and Timek Karachek to the podium. Ed Pearson inherits 4th position after a 5-second time penalty for Michael Shin for jumping the start. Alessandro Famularo with a great 6th place finish to round off his debut weekend, ahead of Luca Viscerano and Diego Della Torre, both picked up 5-second time penalties. Francisco Soldavini and Kaji Baptista complete the top 10. We lost Paolo Brajnik and Yevon David with contact at the start of the race, puncturing his left rear tyre, forcing him in for a change. He could do no better than 11th and comes away with no points after that one.
Yeah, it's a pretty miserable way to end the weekend. After being at the highest of highs, he's reached the lowest of lows as Yevon David. At the moment, this is how the championship looks. As you can see in the bottom right of your screen, provisional championship, 277 points with a 10-point gap between Timek Karachek and now Michael Shin returning to P2, with Yevon David now routed down into 3rd. So it leaves quite the complexion as we head to Barcelona for our next round, which will see us take on yet another trio of races. But this is going to be a moment that's going to be long remembered for young Everett Stack, who came into this series after some Formula Regional Middle Eastern Championship competition, Euro Cup 3, Euro 4, as well as Central European Zone F4 action, Italian F4, F4 UAE, and Formula Regional further Middle Eastern Championship racing on America's Championship Racing, F4 USA as well. And celebrating with his team, he gets lifted aloft as all first-time winners for Motor Park 2, and they'll all celebrate together, I'm sure. Everett Stack, a winner for the first time in the Euroformula Open Championship, and this will mean so much to him.
Well, they got some real ups there, didn't they? For For Everett. Great job done by the youngster. Just go in for the customary weigh-in procedure. Errors on both sides from Stack and Garfias, but crucially, Stack was able to get that lead back again, and this is going to be a sweet way to end the weekend. Of course, only his 6th race weekend in this championship, having joined us this year.
You tried to get away with that, getting an interview as well with Alfredo Filipponi.
Get back here, Everett.
You said, Everett, come back. He will this time, though.
Extending his championship lead, Timit Gaharchek in 3rd position for BVM Racing in race 3 at the Red Bull Ring. It is another podium finish for Jose Garfias, his 7th of the season. But for the first time on the top step of the podium, a race winner in the Euroformula Open Championship, it is the American Everett Stack.
A great moment for you, your maiden win in the Euroformula here at Red Bull. It was fantastic. Eh?
Yeah, it was amazing, yeah. Good start, led every lap until I made a mistake in T4, and then Jos got it, and then I got him back, so then, yeah. But Katarcheko was coming quick, so, you know, who knows. But it was a good race in the end, but had a good gap, so, yeah.
And we have seen a great progression throughout the season, and this morning we could feel that you were there, ready for a first win.
Yeah, this morning was a bit unfortunate. I had good pace, or good defense, let's say like that, and unlucky with the 5 seconds that I got, but I mean, it was my own fault, but yeah, happy with now, so can't really complain.
Happy, yeah?
Yeah, good way to end it.
Enjoy the moment, all the best.
Highlights from the final race of the weekend in the Red Bull Ring. It was Everett Stack starting from reverse grid pole. Not the best of launches. It was contact, though, for Yevon David against Diego Della Torre that punctured his left rear tyre and dropping the Sri Lankan out of contention immediately as he had to get that tyre changed. Stack managed to repel the advances of Garfias at the start of the race as Timit Gaharchek made his way up the order, moving into 4th place ahead of Della Torre into turn 3. Nielsen Racing also moving forward with Ed Pearson locking horns with Luca Visceranu. Top 4 battled away with Motorpark up against BVM, but a mistake for Everett Stack on the exit of turn 4 allowed Garfias to go through into the lead. Gaharchek found his way into 3rd, shoving Michael Shin off the racetrack at turn 3 to get himself onto the rostrum, and then Stack putting the pressure on Garfias, forcing him into that little mistake at turn 3. The Mexican running wide and allowing Stack to get the momentum down the straight, and he never looked back. Everett Stack, for the first time in the Euroformula Open Championship, became a race winner. And after 2 podium finishes, it is a first time to the top step of the podium for the Virginian. So this is what it's done to the championship standings then. Michael Shin now 10 points back from Timit Gaharchek, but Yevon David, look at the damage done there. 31 points to overcome now in these final 2 meetings of the season. Is the championship hope starting to slip away now? Is it turning into a 2-horse race with 2 meetings to go? We look towards the podium, and it is Timit Gaharchek once again for the 8th, 9th, 10th time, and finishing on the podium in all 3 races so far this weekend. And apologies, it is a 9th podium for Jose Garfias, not a 7th, as Everett Stack stands on the top step of the podium for the first time. A sweet feeling, I am sure. The Motorpark representative on the left-hand side. Of course, he also takes the rookie class honours as well, does Everett. And so here's the American anthem. What a moment for Everett Stack, now a race winner.
Following through, actually, with some spicy American talent that has come on to win at Red Bull Ring in the Euroformula Open Championship. Colton Herta back in 2016, winning twice, race 1 and race 2 for Carling Motorsport. And of course, Jack Crawford for Motor Park as well, back in 2021. And then later, we had Brad Benavides, of course, last season, who took victory in race 1 in 2024. So he becomes the 4th American driver to win at Red Bull Ring here in the Euroformula Open Championship.
Lifting the trophy high, as he will also take the rookie trophy as well, but the Pirelli representative handing over to Motor Park, and Carlos from the Red Bull Ring handing over the rookie trophy. Congratulations to him. Getting married next month is Carlos, but the 2 trophies for Everett Stack, and Jose Garfias, Tim Karchek with them on the podium. Well, it seems like it's turning into a 2-horse race now in the championship. Just 2 meetings left here in the Euroformula Open Championship. We'll see you in Barcelona in 2 weeks.